Okay, I'm gonna go off that clock.
Don't go out, Jay.
I call this Sawyer County Zoning Committee meeting to order. Kathy, can we have a roll call, please?
Ron Buckles.
Here.
Bruce Paulson. Absent. John Pettit.
Here.
Jesse Betcher.
Here.
Tweed Schumann.
Here.
Stacy Hessel.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Statement of committee hearing and procedures and statement of hearing notice. The full statement of the committee and public are of hearing procedure documents, including direction for individuals wishing to speak at the public hearing to be conducted at this zoning committee meeting, are available in front of the room next to the agenda for today's meeting. The statement of committee and hearing procedure documents is hereby incorporated into record for this committee meeting. Any public hearing conducted on today's committee meeting has been published in a Class 2 notice in accordance with Chapter 985 of the Wisconsin statutes in the Sawyer County Record and the Sawyer County Gazette as posted. Okay.
Yeah, but this talks about that it wasn't. Okay, yeah, do that one, the next one. Yeah, sorry, pretty good.
Okay, approval of the January 21 minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
A seconded.
we have a motion by Ms. Pettit and a second by Ms. Hessel to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Public comment, please note, comment time is intended for the general public comment, not comments relating to specific application before this committee. Each agenda item requiring a public hearing will have its public hearing conducted just prior to the application being considered by the committee. If you wish to speak on a specific agenda item, we encourage you to hold your comment until then. Again, the public hearing portion has been postponed for today's meeting, and if you wish to submit any public comments to the zoning department prior to the next hearing, you can do so.
I would just ask if there's any public comment, and then after public comment, I'll do something for the official postponement.
Okay, is there anybody that wants to speak on public comment? Linda, do you want to speak? Okay.
I would like to, please.
Yes, state your name, please.
This is Jean Acola. I'm a resident of Sand Lake Township, and I just wanted to publicly thank the zoning office and the board for postponing the hearing, allowing us, the public, to become more informed about the issue.
Okay. Anything else, ma'am?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comment? Anybody else out there, Mike?
No hands up.
Okay. All right, Jay, what did you want to say?
Yeah, so moving into the rezone applications and the conditional use permit applications, because we did not meet the requirements of Chapter 985, I would entertain a motion for postponing of the public hearing portion.
Make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hessel and a second by Mr. Schumann to postpone public hearings until the March 18th zoning committee meeting. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries to postpone.
So now we are on to new business, which I did speak with our new legal counsel, Steve Sorensen, that we can still hear new business items and that we're not necessarily taking action on them. We're just discussing them. The first one I have up there is the county plat provisions. So in our subdivision ordinance, we have section 5.2.4. where it states that the zoning administrator or deputy zoning administrator and the town shall reject, approve, or conditionally approve a preliminary plat within 90 days as provided by statute. After such zoning and town review and approval, the zoning administrator will place the preliminary plat map on the agenda for the next available public hearing for preliminary review by the zoning committee. Plats submitted to zoning committee review may, at the discretion of the zoning committee, comply with the provisions per public notification and department fees as for an application for conditional use. I hate the word may, and that it leaves it open-ended. It really is up to you at the zoning committee to see if you want to review county plats as a full conditional use public hearing process, or do you want to just review them as a kind of separate line item as new business? Right now, we have a proposed county plat, which we've only seen one in the last 10 years. Right now, county plats are $500 and would require an additional $30 for any lots over 8. The lots over 8, I think, might be a potential policy decision that we would want to have, that if someone is proposing lots over 8, that we do hear it more as a full conditional use permit public hearing process. But the one I have proposed right now is for 6 lots. It still has to get town approval. It still has to meet all the requirements for the zoning ordinance and have a county surveyor sign off, have a zoning administrator sign off, and you still have a review process. But what I'm kind of proposing is that we don't hear those as a full-blown conditional use public hearing process for lots under 8. And because this language is in here where at the discretion of the zoning committee may put it on as a public hearing and department fees as an application for conditional use, I need some direction from this committee.
Okay. Me? Jesse? Ms. Bennett, do you have any things you want to say on this?
Nope, I'm good.
I don't know if it sounds like, you know, we're asking to maybe take on additional work that I don't know if that's necessary. It sounds like this isn't a recurring issue that needs to be, you know, addressed further. I mean, it seems like we could just do what we've been doing unless I'm missing something.
No, and it's just, I mean, if someone came in with a county plat and they wanted, you know, a 27 lot configuration, I think, you know, that would merit that, well, maybe we take this as a more, you know, conditional use permit, public notification review process versus 6 lots, which is 2 over the minimum of you never even knowing this occurred through a certified survey map process. I think it's a level of additional jurisdiction which is not needed in this circumstance. But that's where I'm kind of looking at making an administrative decision that for lots over 8, that we would hear them as that more of a formal conditional use permit public hearing process versus this one, which is just proposing of 6. And again, just seeing what the thoughts of the committee were on something like that. Because again, that word may in my ordinance leaves it very open-ended.
Okay, I kind of agree with Mr. Betcher on leaving it the way it is, and if it comes before Jay and his people, then I would say that they could use the discretion on whether to run it through this committee.
Yeah. And the town
As they
still
see.
has a review process on this
Right.
as well. The town's going to hear this. And I think that's one of the most important things when you look at county plats. The only difference really between county plats and just a certified survey map process is kind of the designation of the roadways. And the towns really want input to see, you know, if you're going to put this 10 lot subdivision in, the towns generally want that roadway built to town road specs, that if and when the time comes that they could take it over as a town road. Most towns are not in the position to take on additional town roads, but who knows what happens 10, 20, 40, 50 years down the road. They want it built to those specs that if they wanted to come in, they could deem it a town road. So yeah, I guess that's what I have. And I think that's the discussion I needed to occur. And it sounds like you don't want to hear these smaller county plat subdivisions as any type of public hearing conditional use permit process.
Okay, Mr. Schuman.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jay, can you make that administrative decision without having a motion or a directive
I would
from
think
us?
so, because the word may in there, I mean, I can always bring these as a, a preliminary review. Right now, we have a 6-lot proposal, which is on Brody Lane, which is off of Fairview, which is just south of where the Hayward National Golf Course is. There was a couple larger lots that were in there, and those larger lots are now getting chopped up even further, and that's what's requiring now the county plat. The town's aware of it. They're already starting to look at the preliminary map. Outside of that, I don't see where this is going to be needed for you guys to review. You're still going to have to approve the final plat when it comes, and if you have issues at that time, you can certainly address them and bring them up. But the way it's written now, it's before even the preliminary plat map would be submitted that we would hold a official public hearing process with additional fees onto this developer to the same fees that would be for a conditional use permit. So not only are they now paying $500 for the county plat map, they're now having to pay an extra $350 for the public hearing conditional use permit process, which I think is a little overkill.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll make that administrative.
Agree. Okay.
Okay. Any more questions? Ms. Bennett, Mr. Betcher?
Nope,
No,
I'm
sir.
good.
Okay, thank you.
This is moving on to B. This is another one that has come up a few times now. So I mean, we talked about the shipping container stuff. We talked about the accessory structures on vacant property. This is even a little bit different now. And I've had a few contractors and individuals that are building or working on their own house. They're wondering about the temporary placement of shipping containers during construction, where, again, to safely store tools and materials and not having other structures on the property. I've been asked several times, can I leave a shipping container out there during construction? I have no issues with this as long as it's only out there in a compliant location during a valid land use permit issuance. Our land use permits have a 12-month issuance, and we then allow a 6-month extension onto them. So for someone to be in the process of building a house and putting a shipping container out there during the construction phase under that valid land use permit, I don't have issues with it, but I wanted to see what this committee's thoughts were on it. The expectations would be that once that permit phase is complete, that shipping container goes, or there's other provisions that come about through other ordinance changes that it could be permitted under an accessory structure, but we're not there yet. We're still working through that stuff.
I think it would be considered equipment, just like a construction trailer.
Right.
They leave it there. Now that there's break-ins, they don't want to leave that there. So
And that's where this is coming from,
Okay.
is Dressler Brothers had a trailer stolen from a job site. So
Yeah.
they're now, and they're one of the, I'll say it, I mean, they're one of the people that, have asked about the shipping container, because they had a trailer stolen off a job site.
Yeah.
So they want to put a more permanent,
Right.
semi-permanent
It's
temporary shipping
movable.
container.
I mean,
It is, but you'd have to have the right truck to take a shipping container versus
right,
Drag it down the
versus
road.
versus
Right.
a snap lock or whatever they're
right.
called.
But I mean, it's
Snap-a-lock to
better
hook
for
up to
the
a truck.
construction
Yeah.
owner. So that's why I think we have to look out for them. And
Yeah.
I would say it's just part of their equipment, and that's how I would see it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to advertise it that you can have a shipping container during construction. It's just that, if someone has one out there, it's the working anticipation is that this is there just for the construction phase. Once the construction's done, or once the land use permit phase has been completed, that thing's got to go.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Ms. Hessel.
You
There'd be
know
no
better
problem in
than
my mind to have that there. During construction.
Ms. Betcher, Ms. Bennett, you want to comment on any of that?
I would.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, not only do I think it should be allowed, I mean, personally, I think it should be encouraged, because as I pointed out before, there's not many places that are more secure to store your high value items if you're not going to be there, than one of these metal, steel sided shipping type Connex containers. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea to safely store those tools while you're, building the house or structure.
And a lot of these, there are a few of these places popping up that actually rent them for a specific amount of time, for 6 months, a year at a time. So I think they're called like pods or something
Pods,
like
yep.
that. So I would hope that, you know, if it's more of this rental situation, that also alleviates that it's not going to be there forever because it's a rental. So,
I think it's
yeah, Ms. Pettit, you had one as well?
Yes, I'm for them, but I'm gonna tell you, I have somebody that has bought a piece of property that has been vacant for 30 years, attached to my land. Out of towners, it's next to my land, adjacent. Out of towners started construction, poured concrete in October, a week before it snowed. One of the pods went up. They're not doing any construction. It's sitting out on the highway. They have nothing. They have the truss there, but nothing else is going on. So now that sits there the whole winter, and they have nothing going on. So my kind of issue is I've also seen them along the Chippewa River by Ojibwa off of G, where there's no house. There's campers that are situated there, and they're there. They're using them for storage and stuff. They're not building anything on the land. They're just sitting there, and they have campers sitting there. I've seen many. If you drive up and down the B and 70, you will see many containers and people with RVs with no home on it. So that's my issue with it, where they're just being thrown, used, and they never come back off, or they're put on there and then sit a whole winter. Because I don't know why anybody would pour concrete in October, but it happened. And that container is just sitting out there in full view, and it's not a nice looking container. It's one of the junky ones. And that all that's else is out there is the trussers. So that's what's sitting out there. So I have no problem with them, but the issue comes, you put it out there, how long does it stay? And if you're going to start construction and you're going in a winter, then it shouldn't be allowed to be on there if you're just throwing your shit, you're crap in it and not coming back until spring. Sorry.
Yeah, and I'd like to comment back there. I mean, for the ones that, are, associated with camping, if you have specific addresses or locations of those, I would definitely be interested in obtaining those from you. I am working with a few of them for removals right now. For the other one that's out there over the winter months, I mean, that's somewhat what I'm talking about in this, that, yeah, it might be unfortunate that they're not doing work right now in the winter, but they would still have a valid land use permit in place. If the land use permit was issued in September, they have until September of this year under a working valid land use permit. Now they may have tools stored in there that once we do get some warm up here, then they hit the ground running. And from my experience, it's not uncommon for people to pour concrete into late fall and let it sit over winter, and then move forward with the truss and the build in the spring. So, I mean, that is somewhat what I'm talking about with, allowing the shipping containers during that valid land use permit construction phase. There may not be active construction, but there's valid land use permit.
Anything else? Is that it, Miss Bennett? Huh?
She's nodding.
Oh,
okay.
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And then the last one I have here is for permit extensions. So right now we have, I guess it's been a working office policy where our land use permits are valid for 12 months. That's an ordinance. Certain circumstances come up, and we've granted a one-time 6-month extension onto those permits, so long as you ask for the 6-month extension before the 1-year deadline. If 18 months elapse and you don't have the project shelled or enclosed or completed, then you would have to basically reapply for a brand new permit. It may be even the same thing, but we see it quite often. I've noticed within the last few months, maybe half a year, this supply chain issue has created some headaches for people. I had an individual come in just last week, and he said he ordered windows and they were told they're 6 to 8 months out on windows.
Believe that.
So I'm looking at potentially, again, as an administrator decision, granting an emergency supply chain extension to permits where, again, we would have the 12-month valid land use permit and offer a 6-month extension so long as they ask for the 6-month extension before the 1-year deadline. But if emergencies arise due to supply chain shortages, grant them 1 additional 6-month extension. And that would only hopefully be around for a year or two until we figure out this supply chain. I don't know what your thoughts on there. I don't know if it's going to have any type of unintended consequences. I haven't thought that far out, but I feel like it's a little unfair to individuals where they're trying to do the right thing. You know, they got the concrete down, they got the trusses up, they got the tie back and the sheathing up, and it's not technically shelled and enclosed because they were waiting on windows, and now the permit timeframes have lapsed. And we say, well, it's not shelled and enclosed. Now you need to take out a brand new permit for the exact same thing you did 12 months ago. And thank you for the extra $600, but I already reviewed the first one. This one's going to be really easy to sign off on. I don't like that idea. I'd rather just say, hey, I understand where we're at in this position in the world. I can give you 1 more 6-month extension, but that's it. You got to figure it out from there.
I like that idea.
Mr. Chairman, Jay, what's wrong with going to an 18-month land use permit? I mean, in this
It would
part of
need
the
an ordinance
country,
change.
then you get 2 summer seasons to build. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because winter, I don't know how many people, I know some do, but construction in the winter is not usually as good and people don't want to do it.
I don't like that.
I have no trouble with that extension. Not
Right.
at all.
If
Is
we
there
were
a
to go
fee?
to an
Is there a fee for that extension?
No,
Okay.
no. Right now in ordinance, it states 12 months, and then we have working office policy to grant a 6-month. If I were to just say the permit issuance is granted for 18 months, it would require the ordinance change. We'd have to send it out to the towns. We'd have to have a public hearing process on it. We'd have to go to county board for ratification. It's the process where, I mean, during emergency supply chain issues, this extra 6 months is easier.
Yeah,
Sure.
I agree with Jay. I mean, that should be plenty. I mean, that's something we can work with, but talking about windows, I just trying to order one for my house and they told me I wouldn't be able to get it until August.
Yeah.
1 window.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't last more than a couple of years. That's what I have. So I'll kind of just take it upon myself and draft up some office policy during this emergency supply chain, I'll call it crisis, that we have the ability to grant an additional 6 months if needed.
Okay. Any questions, Mr. Betcher or Miss Bennett?
Yeah, just a comment on that, Jay. It sounds like now you give a 6-month extension, basically no questions asked. And now you're talking about an additional 6-month extension. So maybe there could be questions asked, you know, for that second one. Like you may need to see like an actual order invoice or something where they have in fact ordered these items, building materials, windows, whatever, you know, months ago and they haven't arrived. So yeah, I mean, I understand the need for the extension, but you know, that first one, no questions asked, but the second one, you know, I think it would be okay to ask some questions and maybe see some documentation. That's just
I like that because otherwise people are just going to take advantage of it. They're going to be lazy or they're going to wait for, well, lumber's a little expensive. What if we wait a few months? Maybe it'll come down. I agree with you there, Jesse. I'll require some type of evidence of the emergency status.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Any other business that may come before the committee for discussion? None? We're adjourned.
They must have passed